What do you mean, what happened? I'm in
Well,
labor.
update us. You're in labor. We just came in.
Yeah, came in because I was worried the baby was going to do okay. I know I wasn't ready. I'm nervous now they're going to end up sending me home.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why? Are the contractions not as bad as they used to be?
No, they hurt, but
You're not that far along.
yeah, I'm not dilated enough. They're not quite regular yet. Kind of jumped the gun coming in. I feel like a goof. Like I think my 5th kid, I knew what I'm doing.
I would
Just
imagine.
nervous that the baby's doing okay. Little Makayla, is that the name?
No. It's Monet.
Name?
Having the baby. It's been 2 weeks and 1 day, but this time we're having the baby for sure, aren't we, Jamie? And we've got Jess and Josie here. They're here to help. All right.
Okay, we gotta keep on going.
How you doing, Marth? For sure this time?
Yep.
Okay. You excited, love?
Yeah.
What's that you've been drinking? My name is Jim Peterson. I'm Makayla's father.
And I'm Martha Peterson, Makayla's mom.
Well, we remember her birth really well.
I remember being in labor. It was more like 6:30. She was born at 6:30 at night, and she had the cord wrapped around her neck twice, and so they had to like loosen that.
The doctor just reached down and just really carefully says, "Oh, this shouldn't be there," and just softly pulled the cord away.
And then they were nervous when she was born that, you know, she just, I don't know, that she wasn't pink enough. But other than that, you know, she was healthy and everything was good, so we were happy.
Well, Makayla. We wanted Matthew, but Makayla's. We knew it was Makayla.
Yeah.
So.
Look at this other baby over there. She's born up. Oh, it's November 5th. And what time is it, Jess?
It's 7:06.
7:06.
My name is Jessica, and I am Makayla's oldest sister.
My name is Ben Larson. I am a brother-in-law to Makayla.
My name is Miranda Westwood, and I am Makayla's sister.
My name is Kevin Westwood. I am Miranda's husband, Makayla's brother-in-law.
So my name's Jamie. I am Makayla's older sister.
And my name is Scott. I'm Jamie's husband, which makes me Makayla's brother-in-law.
Well, I remember the day she was born. I was in junior high.
I was in 5th grade. Well, I was 5 when she was born.
My parents came and picked me up from school that day, and I went to the hospital, and all my friends came with me. We had a party at the hospital the day she was born. And I remember bringing her home, and she was the 4th baby girl in our family, so it was just fun to bring her home and have lots of girls in our house.
Kayla and I are 10 years apart, so I remember I was at a friend's house until my mom had the baby, Makayla. We weren't allowed I wasn't allowed to be there. I remember going in and to the hospital when she was born. It was around 6 p.m.-ish.
I remember meeting her in the hospital. There's a picture of me holding her and looking down at her.
Yay! I think she loves you, James.
Jamie, when me and Makayla get in fights, are you going to stand up for Makayla?
And I remember holding her, and she was perfect. That's my first memory of Kayla's holding her.
Makayla and I had probably more daddy-daughter moments than with my other girls. I don't know why that was. Maybe it was just because she was the youngest and she was at home as the other 3 kids were grown. But Makayla just loved to have fun. She liked golf. She liked doing anything with me. She loved her dad.
She's hugging me. Can you see that?
Yeah, the alarm's up there.
I think she loves me.
She loves her dad.
Do you love me, Makayla? Kayla?
Her eyes are starting to open a little bit.
Yep, Makayla.
We spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, her favorite place was Disneyland, of course.
We're going to Disneyland, and I know it's going to be so fun. And here's all the bags. Here's my suitcase of clothes. We have a lot of treats. Here's some.
Went at least once a year, and a couple of the years we bought season passes, and so we'd go down every couple of months. And I was starting to get burnt out. I'm like, I don't want to go back. I don't need to go. She goes, well, I do. Think of me and Dad. We'll have so much fun. She'd talk me right into it, sweet talk me into it. But anyway, that was her favorite thing.
Yeah, it's hard to put just one moment for Makayla.
There's so many. She had a lot of funny moments.
So when she was little, she did not like going to bed. She would not go to bed. She was always sure she was missing out on something. So her room was just up those stairs. She would come into this room that we're in and hide under the chairs and then fall asleep with her legs out like Wizard of Oz style, like the Wicked Witch. And sometimes she would sneak things up back to bed. And so one time we were all hanging out and we hear this like fast pitter patter of feet. So my mom's like, oh, I guess I should go check in on Kayla. And my mom goes in, her blankets are like up to her chin. She smiles at my mom and she's like, there's no ice cream in my bed. And that is the Makayla story we always tell, because no one would have assumed to ask, Makayla, do you have ice cream?
She just loved to have fun. She was always happy. Of all the kids, I think they would all say that she was the happiest. She was never angry. Just loved people and was just a wonderful kid.
Oh, a trance is a spell with a thrill wrapped up inside it. And try as you might to fight it, love will get you in the end. And then the sound of a bell could sound like angels.
Dance, Kayla. Kayla.
Or
Kayla. Kayla, this. Kayla, do this. So she's got her own little dance.
Hey, do this.
Kayla.
It sound like an exile on me. Oh, in that
One funky dance going on. Kayla, do this. Dance, Kayla, dance. 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 Stay alive. Stay alive.
And then the band starts the ball. When the chandelier starts glowing, with or without you knowing who the partner, what the dance. Oh, a trance is a spell with a thrill wrapped up inside it. And try as you might to fight it, love will get you in, love will get you in, love will get you in.
If you were my friend, if you were my
friend,
we would always talk things through, so we won't be mad. If you were my friend,
I'd be a lucky, lucky, lucky boy. I look forward to the time I spend with you.
You can hold him this way. This way he can't really.
Yeah,
His eyes are there. I don't like
His eyes are there.
You poke his eyes out.
Oh no.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What do I do? Grab it.
What do I do? What do I do?
My name is Natalie Reese.
My name is Chris Peck.
Alright, I'm Mia. My name's Glenna Wright.
Okay, I'm Tony Rojas. I'm Miles Brown.
Makayla and I met sophomore year in our health class. I don't actually... No, I do remember how she touched my head. She liked the shaved part of my head. And I didn't know at the time, but apparently from what she told me it was because she wanted to shave her head. So she thought it was like cool that I did it just cosmetically, even though it's kind of weird. Like, we just sort of became friends after that point. It was kind of really organic, like it just kind of kept going from there.
She was a student of mine her sophomore year. She was in my second period class, so yeah, after a while she would often like eat lunch in my classroom, and we kind of hang out with her and a bunch of other students who were just her friends. We talk about poetry and just books, English things, and a lot of other things. Just really good kind of relationship.
We were best friends in 10th grade. Channer Sollenbach introduced us at lunch one day. What was that story? He just said, I want you to meet Makayla, and then we started hanging out right after that. We did a lot of stupid things together. We liked to like dress up in her wigs and go and mess with ex-boyfriends and stuff, and yeah, we were best friends. We told each other everything, and I lived at her house pretty much all the time, and it was great. We traveled together. We went a lot around Utah. I went to Nauvoo, had a sleep over there with her family and stuff.
No, Makayla from Blacklight Dance my sophomore year. I was in a group of people, and she like randomly just like jumped in the group of people and started dancing, and then she asked me what my name was, and then we just like danced together the whole night. She saw like this guy, it was Hayden Weil, and she was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. I was like, oh yeah, that's Hayden. And so we went over and talked to him, and he was like, I'm not single. And it was really awkward, but then they became friends, and afterwards me and her and Andrew Drummond and Hayden Weil went to McDonald's, and then we went home.
Sophomore year we first met in English class. Honestly, I remember just like the first day coming in. It was my sophomore, I think it was my second class of high school. So I was like, pretty nervous and stuff, and so I was like, wow, she's really cute, and it's like, and I sat right next to her. I was like, oh, this is gonna be good, and so that was exciting. And she was really, what's the word, like just automatically just started talking to me, like, you know, so that was good. So I first really got to know her in my psychology class. We were giving presentations on mental disorders, and a lot of people were giving presentations on disorders that they themselves were affected with. I gave one on autism, which is something I struggle with, and Makayla, she gave one on trichotillomania, which was a mental disorder that caused people to kind of pull their hair out, but it's not like the expression, oh, I'm pulling my hair out or whatever. It's more like an impulse thing that they sort of have a hard time controlling. And that's really where I kind of first like got to know her, you know. And I think, I don't know, I just really remember vividly that experience. She came into class that day like bald, and sort of revealed to us that she's been bald the whole time and has been wearing a lot of wigs, but has decided to give that up and trying to grow her hair back naturally. And I don't know, I thought it was really amazing and brave of her to do something like that, especially in high school. But I thought it was beautiful that she was bald. Not like in spite of the fact that she was bald, but like because she had something unique about her. She had this very like bold sort of statement, I guess, but it was like, I don't know, it was just beautiful to me because of how unique it was and how different it was, and I love that about her. So yeah, that was when I first met her.
Okay, so one story I think of when I think of Makayla is April Fools. I had heard horror stories from other teachers, and so I was really careful to always like be in my room, and when I wasn't, I would lock my door, which I usually don't do. And so I was being really careful, and we had an assembly that day. So I remember leaving class after A2, which was her class, to go down to the assembly, and I see her and Natalie Reese kind of standing off to the side, not going to the assembly, and I was like, well, all right. And I kind of made my way down with all my students, and I get back to my room, and there's a lot of students kind of in the hall going back to class, and I look over and I see her and Natalie still there, just with their phones, trying to be secretive, and it was kind of hard to see them because of all the students. And I get to my door, and there's just duct tape over the entire door, really colorful duct tape, and it just said Happy April Fools from Makayla and Natalie. And I'm taking off this duct tape, and I mean, it was just everywhere. I couldn't get into my door at all, and there was trash like filled up behind it. So in between my locked door and the duct tape was just trash that they had found and that they had like kept for I don't know how long. I think Makayla or Natalie told me after they had like been saving it up to put in between, that just like it was a big mess, but it was really funny, and they were just laughing hysterically, and that really sticks out in my mind for both of them, but for Makayla especially, just because it was such a funny and real interaction, like that they felt comfortable enough to do this prank and to kind of joke around that way, because it was funny. I mean, it took a long time to get all the tape off, but it was, I don't know, it always kind of just sticks out in my memory. So
she's really extroverted. She liked to go out and do stuff, and me sophomore year I was like tiny and shy and scared, like wouldn't talk to anybody. So there was one night where she had earlier in the week she had invited me to like a party, like one of those downtown Provo like teen parties. And I told her there was no way. Like, there's no way I'm gonna go. She was like, oh, okay. And later that week, one night, she texted me and she was like, hey, are you, like, put together? Like, you in normal clothes? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, cool, I'm outside. We're gonna go. Like, you're just gonna come with me. And you're gonna be mad at first, but it's gonna be fun. And we ended up going, and it was, like, the coolest thing. And that's the first time I did something, like, actually out of the box. And it's because she, like, forced me to. But it was, like, really cool that she just went out of her way to kind of force others out of their comfort zones in ways that would positively impact them.
Oh, her birthday party. Her birthday party was definitely like my favorite. Me and Mia kind of helped plan it out. And I remember, like, at the time, she was, like, kind of struggling with friends, you know. A lot of high schoolers are, you know, that type of stuff. I remember we had, like, a surprising 75 people show up, and it was just, she was, like, in this really, like, brand new dress she'd got, and she was just hippity, hoppity everywhere. It was just, I don't know, that was really my favorite memory.
Well, there was a lot of random, like, late night runs to get chicken nuggets because that was her favorite thing ever. And it's like, if you ever want to, like, party, you can always just hang out with Makayla. She always has these crazy ideas.
Oh, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said shut up and dance with me. This woman is my destiny. She said ooh, ooh, shut up and dance with me. We were victims of the night, the chemical, physical, kryptonite. Help us to the base and the fading light. Oh, we were born to get together, born to get together. She took my arm, I don't know how it happened. We took the floor and she said, oh, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said shut up and dance with me. This woman is my destiny. She said ooh, ooh, shut up and dance with me. A backless dress and some beat up sneaks. My discotheque, Juliet, teenage dream. I felt it in my chest as she looked at me. I knew we were bound to be together, bound to be together. She took my arm, I don't know how it happened. We took the floor and she said, oh, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said shut up and dance with me. This woman is my destiny. She said ooh, ooh, shut up and dance with me. Oh, come on, girl. Deep in her eyes, I think I see the future. I realize this is my last chance. She took my arm, I don't know how it happened. We took the floor and she said,
Steamrolling whatever I see. Yeah.
There were a lot. We had a lot in common. I think what kept us really close was that we're both okay with talking about mental illness. Like, weirdly enough, it's just not taboo to either of us. Like, it was just something that we could talk about. And it was kind of a weird thing to talk about with most of our friends. So when we came together, it was just a thing that we could both discuss because it's something that we both dealt with. So it was, like, really helpful. And it just kept us bonded. Like, we always had a reason to catch up.
Because she struggled ever since she was little with feeling like she wasn't enough and her sadness. And like I said earlier, we had the same mental illnesses, and seeing her, how strong she was, I was not as strong as she was, and her impact, she shared her issues with others to build them up and to help others, and I was not that way, and that stuck with me, especially when she died. My goal was to be more loving like her, more service oriented like her. She was accepting of everyone, but just her ability to love, she loved everyone, and she was happy about it. Even though she wasn't always happy, she always shared happiness with others, even if it was through her giving strength to others.
She's really strong because she was always in so much pain, but anyone who knew her would be like, she's the happiest person you ever meet, but like you never realize that she was like actually like always in a lot of pain.
She was really good at bringing me out of my shell. I was like the most antisocial, and she like made me go to parties, or not made me, she encouraged me to go to parties. She took me to homecoming just out of the blue. She had gotten home like the day of, and she just texted me and she was like, hey, what are you doing? We're going to homecoming. Like, I don't have a date, you don't have a date, like we're just gonna go. It's like, okay, like just stuff like that. She took me to all of the football games, just stuff that I wouldn't normally do. She wouldn't really ask me. She'd just be like, oh, by the way, we're gonna go and it's gonna be fun. And it like just kept going. Like now that's stuff I just do because I like to do it, but I never would have known that I like to do stuff like that if she hadn't encouraged me to actually step out of my comfort zone.
I think that's really the biggest thing that Makayla has shown me, is that words really do make a difference, both good and bad. And while, you know, doing huge grand gestures of kindness is awesome and amazing, it makes a big difference, small things do too. And I think that's really the biggest thing I've learned from her. And because of her, I try even harder than before to always be doing kind things for everyone, even like the smallest things. I just try to keep more on top of that and really aspire to be like her.
I feel like I think anyone in our family would agree that she had the most pure heart out of anybody in our family. That her intentions were always good and always pure. And so I always looked at her, even though she was my younger sister, as an example. I look at how she was in high school, and most people, high schoolers are the most selfish people. We all were. We've all been there. I mean, we still are selfish. And she wasn't. And that she was an example to me in that. And I mean, even today, I think of just who she was as a person and how I would like to be that, even though she's 12 years younger than me. And I've had more life experience, but yet she was cared about everybody individually. One of my other favorite things about hers is if someone was sad, she cared personally what was going on with them. And so that's something I try to emulate and be like.
Yeah, she was a big piece of the family, and she always made me feel welcome. She always seemed to be able to get everybody together too. Jamie said it, she did have an unconditional love for everyone, and she had such a kind heart. And I mean, still I think about her, and she was so spiritual, and try to emulate her and remember her.
Trying to remember, she'd come in every once in a while during lunch and would just kind of hang out with a lot of the students, and it was just like a normal day. She was just talking, having fun, kind of being herself, just being, you know, Makayla. And I think that was just before Christmas break, early December or so, but it just seemed like a normal day, and it was just kind of, it was pleasant to have her around. She was always happy, always willing to be around people, and it seemed like pretty normal, I think.
We like hung out, and we went hot tubbing, and we went to Will's Pit Stop and got drinks, and we talked in our car, and we got chicken nuggets as usual. It was like a pretty average day, but it was like a good day. And like I just remember she was so happy about like just like her life. She was in like a really good place. So
I was here visiting my parents, or my mom. My dad wasn't home from work. I had my younger two. My oldest was in school. And she came home and we chatted about her day. It was nothing extravagant. Just chatted with her. And then giving her a hug goodbye and telling her I love her.
We all went as a family to Temple Square up in Salt Lake. So Makayla and I were getting hot chocolate for everyone. And her phone died. And then my phone died. And we had no idea where everybody was. So we were holding a bunch of hot chocolate and we were walking around trying to figure out how we'd find people. And finally someone asked us to take a picture of them with their phone. So we did, and I said, hey, while I have your phone, do you mind if I call my wife real quick? But it was very much like much of my memories with Makayla, where just her and I were walking around goofing off and making jokes, and nothing significant, but it was a good memory. That it was just her and I, and got in kind of a funny situation and then found a way out of it.
I was up there with her in her bedroom, and we were just laughing. And I was laying next to her, and she says, Dad, tell me that I'm your favorite. And so I says, Kayla, you're my favorite. Well, what I didn't know is she was secretly videotaping it on her phone. And then she sent it out to her sisters to let them know that I had said that.
Yeah, she was the favorite daughter.
We went to Tony Rojas's basketball game. Whatever, Merc Squad. We went to a Merc Squad game to go cheer on Tony. And then we hung out at my house afterwards because she loved to play with my dog, because my dog sings along to harmonicas, and she would just do that for like 40 minutes at a time, just like play the harmonica for my dog. And the last thing she ever said to me in person was Star Wars was coming out the next week, and she was like, oh, we're gonna go see Star Wars on Monday. And I was like, cool. And then, you know, like Monday came.
I had woke up that morning about 5 and couldn't fall back asleep. I usually get up at 6 and then go up and sit with her and talk to her to wake her up. And I wish now I'd gone up earlier, but I just thought, well, I'll let her sleep a little while. And at 6 I went up, and I couldn't see her in the bed when I opened the door. So I flicked the lights on and saw that she was face down on the floor. And I saw her cat condo was over, and there's this high stool she had been on, and that was knocked over by her feet, and I could just see the blood on the bed. I could see she'd fallen and hit her head, and I reached out and touched her leg, immediately panicked, and I felt that it was cold, and I knew it'd been a while, that there was no need to do CPR. She was gone. But I checked for any breathing and just knew she was gone, so I called Jim immediately, knowing that when I called 911, they would keep me on the phone. I'm a nurse, and I just knew that they'd try to keep me calm and talk to me the whole time until the police arrived. And I knew he was on his way to work and wanted to call him immediately to get home. And so I told him that I was pretty sure she has passed, and come on home. And my first thought was that she had Christmas lights in her hands, and my first thought was that the Christmas lights were around her neck, that maybe she had tried to kill herself because she was in such a depression. But she was trying to hang them up, and when the medical examiner came, they told us that they could tell that she had had a seizure from her face. Blood vessels break and stuff. And so they said that they thought it looked like an accident, that she must have been on the stool, hit her head on the bed, and killed her. And so once Jim got home and the police got here and stuff, then we called our daughters. and let them know.
I was in bed, and it was in the morning. I had woken up. I think I woke up actually to my phone vibrating, and I looked over and saw it was my dad calling. And I was like, that's weird, Dad must be butt dialing me or something, like he doesn't call me in the mornings. So I didn't answer it. And then Kevin got in the shower, and we got a text from my dad. It was a group text to me and Jamie. Or it was our family group text, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The family group text, and he said, call me whenever you have a minute. I have some bad news. And so we just thought it was something simple. Nothing extra, nothing, no big bad news. And then Kevin came out of the shower, started getting ready for work, waking up the kids for school, and I still was slowly getting out of bed. Our friends had been there all weekend. I remember feeling super lazy and tired, and then my dad called again, and I was like, man, that's weird, I better answer. And I knew the second I heard his voice that he'd been crying, and I knew what he was gonna say, because your voice doesn't sound like that normally. Scott went to work, and he called me down. We got our boys ready, and I drove down to here. When we got here, there was, I don't know, there was like a big truck, and you could see it was long enough to fit like a stretcher. It wasn't an ambulance or anything. There was a lot of cars parked out front, and we came inside, and Makayla's room is upstairs, and they told me I couldn't go up there. And then we came into the living room, like the Bishop Rick from our church was here, and a lot of, I know it was a blur kind of the whole day, but my sisters were here, and we just kind of spent the day. I don't know, I can't really remember a lot of the day, but a lot of crying, going through our journals. I was at home. I had stayed home sick from school because Christmas break was like the day after, so we had like 2 more days of school. And I had texted her that morning. I was like, hey, you need to go to school, because we would skip school a lot, especially because we both dealt with like anxiety and stuff. So she would always text me like, even if you don't feel like it, like, go to school, and I would do the same. So I texted her, I didn't get a response, so I texted Tony. I was like, hey, like, is Makayla at school? And he was like, no, I haven't heard from her. And we had a group chat, so we were like texting in the group chat. And then I was just sitting in my bed, I think. And then I just saw on Facebook, like I was scrolling through Facebook, and people were posting on her timeline, like her family. And I was like, but it was really like open-ended. Like it wasn't obvious what had happened, so I texted her mom. And I was just like, hey, like, you wanna explain? And she got back to me like an hour later and told me.
I think someone in my class like started crying, and they like left the room, and everyone was like wondering why that person was crying, and then someone else said, it's like, oh, it's because this girl she knew died. And I walked over and I was like, wait, what girl? And they're like, oh, her name's Makayla Peterson. And I kind of just like, it's like, no, like she didn't die, like that's totally fake. So I ran out into the hallway on the bridge on 2nd floor, and I checked social media, and like I saw one of her other friends post about it, and I honestly don't like remember. Oh my gosh, I don't want to cry. I don't like remember what happened, because I know I like sat down and I kind of just like, I didn't really know what's going on, and I was with Cammie Mitchell, and she was just like, it's gonna be okay, like we'll figure it out. And then I went into my car and I kind of just like sat there for a while. Then I went and picked up Natalie from band, and I told Natalie Reese, and I told her And so we kind of just sat there. And then I went over to my friend's house and we just like spent the day. I don't know. It was a weird day.
It's weird. Like, it was definitely, I was in shock and I never knew what that was. And it's like, I don't think I could ever explain it to someone who's never been in shock. But it's just a 100% numbness of everything. You have no idea what's going on. Time is weird. Everything is just off. And so, yeah, and I was at school and I just immediately like didn't even talk to anyone. I just left the school and just went home.
So one day, so our family goes to the cemetery probably once a week. We try to.
Let me interject in your story. When she was here on Earth, she would go to the cemetery all the time and visit her brother who died that she never knew. He died at 7 weeks old. You know, I told you, born with a heart defect. And she would go and talk to him, and she would come home and say, "How come you never go to the cemetery?" And I'm like, he's not there. He's in heaven. I don't need to go to the cemetery to visit him, you know. It's his body's in the ground, you know.
But his spirit is alive. But his
spirit's alive in heaven. And so, I don't know. She just was bothered that I didn't go as much as she did. I mean, she went all the time, and she'd take pictures all the time, and she even wrote a note to him about what a great brother he would have been if he had lived. But anyways.
And she was born after he passed. She never got to know him.
Yeah.
So anyway, as Makayla passed, we felt a sense to go to her grave a lot more. And so we would go, and we've decorated it every day. Not every day, once a week, and it remains decorated today. And one day I'd been gone on a work trip for a few days, and I was on my way home. Or I think it was actually the following day, and I hadn't been to the graveyard, her grave, and I just felt like I should. And then on the way there, I just had a prayer in my heart, and I says, "Heavenly Father, does Makayla know I'm here?" And I thought, you know, I had just found this app where if Martha goes to Walmart, I can get an email that says Martha's now at Walmart. And I thought, of course Makayla knows I'm going to the graveyard. She just knows. So I started off singing Gwen Stefani's Sweet Escape. And I just had it as loud as I could. And I was there just at her grave singing Sweet Escape. And then after, I played a couple more songs that Makayla loved. And then I played some other music where Makayla was actually singing when she was a little girl that I had on my iPhone. And I just spent probably a half hour at her grave. And as I was finished, this was in the middle of the day, it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just a bright sunny day. I was the only one at the cemetery. And when I came back to my car, a purple ribbon had been placed in my car. And Makayla's favorite color was purple. And ribbons had been put in our trees the day she died. And so it was kind of the symbol of Makayla. And so I felt that day that it was a gift from Makayla from heaven that I cherish and have in my room right now. And I hope to be buried with that ribbon.
I think she knew everything I wanted to tell her. Like, we were very open and very, like, affectionate, I guess. And we were really close. Like, she knew how I thought, like, how I felt about her. I just wish she had seen, like, the impact that she had on more people at the school, because she didn't think that she was, like, a very important aspect of that many people's lives, and she was, but it just wasn't very obvious at the time. But sort of afterward, that's come out, as a lot of people were affected by her.
I think she would want them to know that she truly cared about them, that she empathized with their situations. She had a lot of things going on in her life that made her life difficult, and she always tried to be as happy and as cheerful and as encouraging as she could. And I think she did that because she loved them, and I think she would want them to know that she really did care about them in very real ways.
But I think she would want to thank all her friends for being her friends, for being kind, patient, loving, accepting her for who she was.
Makayla was very spiritual too. I think she would want them to know that she's happy, and I guess I'm speaking now that she's passed. She would say, hey, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm in a good place. We miss her every day. We talk. It's brought our family closer. It's just wonderful to see our kids, how close they are. As we see pictures of her, we've learned even more how loving she was. Our memories of Makayla just remind us of how to not sweat the small things and just to love people. And she's really, really taught us that. And we look forward to seeing her again.
Tears to the top.